friends, welcome. This is going to be a tutorial today to make a little one of these desk sets boxes that has 3 books in it, and it has like a scrapbook and then like an ephemera book, and then it has a page or a book that has like a flipper thing. These ones aren't finished because this just happens to be the prototype that I was working on. And it will have, I have these little feet to put on the bottom of it, but as you can see right here, I'm going to be working with the Stamperia Alice in Wonderland collection because I'm actually participating in a Peacecraft Love YouTube Hop where we are showcasing different projects that we have created using the theme of Alice in Wonderland, because that is a theme for March 2022 with Peacecraft Love. And so I have ordered a variety of different things. Most of the paper is from Peacecraft Love. There'll be some little itty bitty pieces here and there that'll be coming into play. I found a bunch of charms on AliExpress, and I actually have more coming today, so just in time. These ones say drink me. These ones are the rabbit, and then these ones are a little wreath that's Alice, like the Disney version of Alice in there. And then I got these really cool keys from Peacecraft Love. And then Tim Holtz has some of these feet that go on the bottom. They come in a set of 4, but I found these ones for just a couple dollars more on Amazon, and I got a bazillion of them so I can make a whole bunch of these boxes. The other thing I'll be using is some acetate, and I just found some stuff on Amazon for that. This lace also from Amazon, and then some papers and things like that. But I will try to list links to everything that I purchased in the description box. Like I said, the paper all comes from Peacecraft Love, and it's the Alice Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland collection. I just pretty much ordered everything she had. I was like, what you got? I'll take it. And I really like the Stamperia version because she uses a lot of the original Lewis Carroll's, or I shouldn't say she, they use a lot of the original Lewis Carroll illustrations that you can find in the books that are just colored, which I really like. So anyway, a lot of this video is going to be in fast forward, and I'll end up doing a little bit of talking over the top of it, and probably have music playing in the background just because it would take forever if we did the whole thing. I'll start with the building of the box, and then I will do the building of the books. And then after that, I will do making the insides of the books. But of course, the inside of the books can be however you want to do it. I have this book, I call it my recipe book, where I just write down all the different plans of different things, and then keep any stencils that I've created and coupons and whatever. And so when you see this come out, this is just has all the measurements, all the math I've done to create this book. This is not an original idea of mine. I did see this on Pinterest and then remade it based on what I had seen. So this was just something I saw and I was like, ooh, that looks cool. I'll make my own version of that. I am definitely one of those people who's like, work smarter, not harder. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. So when you see this guy come out, you'll just know that I'm looking at my measurements and stuff. And like I said, all of this stuff will be included down below in the description box. So if you want to make it, it's right there. I'm not an expert at editing videos, and so putting the measurements and everything in there may or may not happen, but I will just do my best to show you what I'm doing and then talk over it so that you can kind of see, ask any questions that you have down in the comments, and enjoy. Thank you, and let's have some fun. So first up, I'm just going to go ahead and make the base of the box. The measurements are written on those pages, but as I said before, you can find them down below. I'm going to go ahead and glue the 12x6 to the 12x12 so that I have a long enough piece that will wrap around all of the pages. Burnish it really good. And I use the Art Glitter Glue, dries quickly. I'm going to put the 2x6 or the 6x5 on top of each other, and I always line them up first just to make sure that I have my spacing right. I just eyeball it. I'm not like a perfectionist or anything. If things get a little bit sideways, that's just the way it goes. It'll fold over and cover up most likely in most cases. So I'm leaving a gusset. The first time I made things, I did not know that I needed to leave a gusset, and of course things did not bend appropriately. So that was kind of interesting. So I'm just sticking everything down, and then I'm going to trim some of the stuff. And I'm sure there are professional crafters out there that are like, what on earth is she doing? This is what works for me. I'm not saying that this is what is going to be the best method for everybody, but I wanted one piece of paper to cover everything. I am just scoring everything, scoring the corners that just come straight out so that I can fold in the pieces. And then I'm trimming this kind of at an angle. There's not a whole lot of reason why I decided to do the angle other than it just made me feel better. And then trying to kind of miter the edges so that when I fold things in, there's not a whole bunch of overlap there. And then I'll go in and retrim as I go, because I realized that I needed to get a little bit closer to things. And now I'm just going to glue the edges that don't impact the way that the pieces will help to hold the box together in its 3D shape. Now I just want to go through and make my folds ready to go so that when I add glue, I'm not fighting with the paper. And so I'm just kind of folding everything over and getting things ready to go and folding those corners in. Now I'm going to put glue on the inside part to glue those pieces together. And then I'm going to glue them to the inside of the box. The first time I did this, I glued it to the side and it made the seam show really extensively on the front. So I am gluing it to the front because it helps to hide the seam a little bit better, and then using some clips just to give it a little bit of support as it sets and dries. And then so I'm just gluing the inside, and then I go and I glue the side of the flaps and then glue it down to the front of the box, and then just repeat that process on all four corners. I got a little nervous right here, I have to admit. I was worried I was gonna mess this up, even though I had practiced this beforehand. But so yeah, I just had to take a little breather there and make sure that I was doing everything right before I started the back part of it, the back two pieces. Now I am just going to go around and glue down all of the top edges and fold them over and add enough glue to stick them down and burnish them really good so that they will stay and just add a little bit more security to the whole integrity of the box. Next up, I'll be making the liner. You could technically skip this if you didn't want to, but I just wanted to make sure that I covered all of the brown paper to make, even though I'm going to be covering it with the decorative cardstock in a little while, I wanted to cover it with all the black so that everything was really consistent all the way through the whole project. All right, to make the liner, I have an 8.5 by 10 piece of paper, and I am going to score it at 1 1/4 on 3 sides of it, and then 1 tick shy of 6.25 on the long side of it. And that's just me making sure that it's going to fit right. So it goes 1 1/4, and then it goes to just a tick shy of 6.25. And I think it's like 6 3/8 is where it's at. And then I'll be trimming out the corners here so that I can just put it right inside the box and everything will lay down and fold up nicely. Before I put it in the box, of course, I'm going to go ahead and fold it all and make sure that when it goes in there, it's going to fit nicely and snug without having a bunch of gaps or anything else. You may have noticed that I always write words. They're just affirmations and putting good energy into the things that I create. So I just try to make them have good feelings all the way through. So love, health, happiness, any words that just are good words that I would want anybody to have as part of their life or part of this product. It might be silly, but I think it's a nice thing to do. Get to the good part. Yay! I have all of my pieces cut, and I went ahead and ran some threads and stitching around the edges because I just love the way that makes things finished. I am using some tape that I buy on Amazon, and I will link that below in the description box. I'm using both 1-inch wide tape here and 5-inch wide tape on these pieces. I really like the 5-inch one. It's not cheap, but I really like it anyway. And then I'm just burnishing things down as I stick them down and making sure that the tape is really good on the paper, and then just laying it on all the sides to cover up a lot of the black, making it pretty. Since the bottom isn't something that will be seen very often, I pretty much just used scraps that I had cut off things that went in line with the piece of paper on the back that has the Mad Hatter Tea Party. I wasn't too concerned about it being absolutely perfect. Now I'm putting on the feet. I don't like to use hot glue for things like this because in my experience, hot glue after a little while, well, things will pop off. E6000 is I just love it. I'm careful with it because a little bit goes a long way, but once something is dried with the E6000, it is not coming off. So I really trust this as a good adhesive that works really well to do something like this where I'm gluing the feet on. It does take a little bit longer to dry than other things, and I did have to keep on pushing my feet on carefully, but they did stick and they are stuck and they're not coming off anytime soon. Next up, I'm going to start making the books that go inside. Once again, I've already pre-cut everything. The chipboard is, I have 3 pieces of 1.5 by 4.5, and then I have 6 pieces of chipboard for 4.5 by 4.5, and that will make the 3 books. The cardstock or mat that's covering things, I have 1 piece for each one that's 12 by 7.5, And then I've put the tape on the back of all of the cardstock pieces and we'll be sticking them down, and then taping the outside before I miter the corners, just because it simplifies the whole process. When you miter the corners, it's like a little tricky, because you have to get close enough so that you're not going to have a bunch of overhang, but not so close that the under part is revealed. And I think that just comes with practice. I have noticed if I make it a little bit too thick, it will have a little tail that sticks out, but you can just trim that off easy squeezy, and it doesn't seem to make a huge difference. I like to kind of lean it down on the table and like to fold it up. It just gives it a nice clean end. The mats are sorry, not the mat, the liner is 10 5/8 by 4 3/8. And once again, I'm just sticking that down, and then I give it a little bend to make sure that it's covered nicely. This is just a super duper speeded up version of just what I just did, just to kind of include it in the process video. Next up, it's going to be the pretty decorative part of the books, and I like to do all of this before I put things on, so that once it's on, all the stitching's there, and I just have to put some tape on the back and be ready to go. My machine does not like to sew through the tape that I use, and it will get really gummy and annoying. So I did some fussy cutting of a couple different things, and then I'm going to be putting some foam tape on the backs of the fussy cuts. So like right here, I've got the Mad Hatter from the Tea Party. I already sewed down a playing card, sewed down some lace for some texture, and then that fussy cut teapot is on there, and now the Mad Hatter is going to go on top of that. And I've already sewn the seam around the edges. The stitching around the edges has already been on there for most of these things. The lace that I used, I do get it on Amazon, and I use it throughout here as a consistent element that I used. And then you may have seen me add some glue to the underside of the Mad Hatter, even though he already had the tape on him. I just don't trust that the tape is going to stick forever, and so I like to put a little bit of glue on there to make sure that it's really secure. When I have 3D things popping up off of there, it makes me a little bit nervous, and so I like to make sure to secure it as much as possible. Now I'm just adding a ruffle of this lace down the back of the spine piece, so that is prepped and ready to go. So that one's done. I've already done some stitching all around the rabbit to add some texture to him, and I'm going to add a little banner to the top of this with the card elements that are common in the Alice in Wonderland theme, and then I'll zigzag stitch around each one of those to make it have a little bit more of little more texture, and it will carry over to the piece that's on the spine as well. last cover is just going to be shakers. So on the spine, I'm putting a piece of lace in there and then adding some little sequins that I got at Creative Mojo Wholesale Studios. And then the cover is going to be those sequins for the shaker, as well as some different charms that I have of the white rabbit, of drink me or eat me, and some things like that. So some Alice in Wonderland charms that I got off of AliExpress. Just adding tape to the backs of everything to get it ready to stick down to the books. I wish I could use my 5-inch tape here, but these are only 4.5, and I hate it when there are gummy edges on the edge of books. I have 2 pairs of scissors I use. I have my good scissors, and then I have my old scissors. The minty green ones are my old scissors, and so I use those ones to cut the tape stuff. Otherwise, the scissors just get gummy and gross and don't cut very well. So burnishing everything down, lining everything up, and then I'm going to go back through and stick everything down onto the book covers so that they are ready for the insides. Starting out on this one with inserting a ring, a binder ring in there, and so I'm just punching holes, adding the eyelets in there, and then I'll be putting a binder ring on there so that I can have a tag flip that goes to the inside. And then I'm also putting a pocket on the opposite side to hold little goodies. This one will be holding a shaker that I'm making, and then it will also have a little rosette on the bottom. I will be putting a little slide pocket on the bottom that will cover up those chest pieces eventually, so that the clip on the rosette can be there. So pockets are just basically, you take a piece of paper and then you score 3 sides of it, and you score the same score twice so that it can fold over twice, and then you cut out the corner, and then you leave the long piece and you fold it over, and it's how you make any pocket. So the pockets, I could put the measurements on here, but I probably won't do that just because pockets are pretty straightforward to make. And I used a lot of just scraps to make my pockets quite often. So I didn't have exact measurements quite often. So the book is 4.5 tall, and so I'm assuming that this pocket right here is 6.5, adding 2 inches to each side because I tried to make the pocket 1/2 inch deep And so that would mean that I would add an inch to each side. And I did fold over the pocket on the opening part just to add a little bit of extra security to it, so it's not going to fall apart. I will often fold over or just run a seam along there of zigzag stitches to make it a little bit stronger. Now I'm just adding the tags here, paying attention to the sizes, and that one is done. This next one, I think, is another pocket book where I'm just going to make some pockets for the inside of it, and it'll be kind of an ephemera book. It's not the ephemera book. This is actually the pocket junk journal book, and so this one is a little bit more intensive. So I'm just putting a pocket in the front, and eventually I'll be tucking some Frankenstein tags that I made. I save all my scraps, put them together, and like glue them onto a piece of white paper, and then run them through my die cutter with some tags, and then just cut tags out of it. So this is the binding, the hidden hinge binding, and it's a 4x6 piece of paper made to match the liner. And then I score 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/3, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/3. So the 1/2 inches are where I'm putting my double-sided tape, and then I'm going to fold it over, and those are the parts that will stick up. And then the 1/3 is the gusset in between each of those 1/2 inch pieces. And it's amazing how strong this is when it gets done. I do miter the edges so that everything works a little bit better. But once you put the tape on the back and stick it down, like, these things are solid. First time I made them, I was like, yeah, we'll see how well this lasts. But over time, it's a really consistent, good, solid way to create the hinges. And these are the ones, whenever I show my husband these, he's always like, oh, that looks really professional. And then I make sure to burnish down in between each of the flaps. Now here I have the inside pockets. These are, 8.5 by 4.75. And then I'm gonna score them on the bottom at 1/2 inch, and then the side at 1/2 inch, and then 4.5, and then cutting off those little edges. I am sewing right onto each of the sides of the pockets. The inside will be a little pocket where you can slide something. And so I'm just making my little folder pockets on the bottoms and on the sides as I go, and just sewing those right on there, because you won't be seeing the back of it, and everything will be covered up eventually. So I'm just gonna stop talking, and you can just watch the process of me putting these pockets together for the pocket book. Says she's gonna stop talking and then immediately starts recording again. That's because I've got a little piece of vellum here. I stuffed a little scrap in there and am making a little shaker pocket on the inside just for cuteness. Right now we're on to how to put these together. I'm folding each of them in half, and then I'm going to fold up the bottom flap, and I'll be gluing that to the inside. When you are gluing this down, make sure that you glue, or that you fold in the other side, but don't glue it, because that's the part that you're actually going to glue into the book. I'm adding those binder clips on the bottom so they make sure and stick really good. And so I go through, I glue each bottom down, do a little burnishing, and then binder clip it. And by the time I'm done with all 5 of these pages, they should be dry enough for me to be able to stick in there without having any problems. Now that I have all the pages put together, I'm just going to put a line of glue on the bottom, or on each side of the flap of the binding, and then I'm just going to burnish each side down. And I will continue to go through and burnish them and keep touching them because I don't want them to come loose. The way that this works is it leaves an open pocket on the top so that you can slide in a 3.5 by 4 tag into each one of those pockets. And it just kind of makes an extra place to store things and put things, write letters, whatever you want to put inside there as your diary and keepsake. I'm just going through and burnishing these down again, and now I'm going to go ahead and add all of the inside pieces into those top pockets so they each have something in them. And then the paper collection from Stamperia includes all of these cut apart cards, and then I also purchased the additional little ephemera sets, and so I'm just using those to stuff the pockets that I have throughout here. I did end up adding an extra pocket on the back page to hold some more stuff on the back inside cover, but I did that after the production of the video. Last book is straight up just going to be a pocket book, and it will hold some shakers and an accordion book that I'm creating using some of the ephemera that's included with the collection. And so just like before, I have my little piece of paper, and I'm just going through and doing the 2 scores, and then I will trim the corner, the most outside piece off, and then use the inside flap to glue it over and just make it a little more firm. So that piece stays on, the outside piece comes off, and then when I glue it, it just makes it a little more firm. Some people make it a little shorter for that flap. I just leave it on there long. I just feel like, oh, it's going to be a little bit stronger. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it makes me feel better. And then you just use the inside piece to glue that on. And this is the pocket I just made is the one that I ended up putting into the junk journal. I realized that I liked the way that blue paper looked better, and so I just ended up remaking a pocket to put on here. This is like a little artist choice, I guess. And then after I glued this, I realized, oh, I want to put a seam on there. So I just ran it through the sewing machine real quick so that it's a little stronger and it can sustain a little bit more sliding things in and out than it would if I just left it as plain paper. that's it. Those are the 3 books that I made for the inside. They're pretty simple right now, but I am adding a whole bunch of stuff to them. And here we go with the flip through of the final project. Enjoy.